Welcome to Lunch with the Lord. I'm Pastor Mark. We're in Judges chapter 16. We're going to be starting in verse 4 this lesson with Samson falling in love with Delilah. But before we begin, Jeremiah 15:16, thy words were found, and I did eat them, and thy word was unto me the joy and the rejoicing of my heart. Now, in chapter 16 and verse 4 now, it begins with Samson meeting. Let's just read verse 4. And it says here, and it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Now, sometime after Samson's exploits here at Gaza, in the last lesson, in verses 1 through 3, he goes to Sorek. And the name Sorek means choice or excellent vine. And he sees Delilah and he falls in love with her. Sorek is only about 2 miles from Zorah, his hometown, and it is famous for vineyards. And there is a river that runs through it, which was given the name Sorek River. More than likely, it was not a river, but basically a stream. Sorek was in Israel's land, not in the Philistines' land. Now, nothing specific is given about Delilah, whether she was or was not a prostitute, or whether she was a Philistine, or whether she was Jewish, doesn't say a thing about it. But her close relations with the Philistines seem to suggest that she was a Philistine. If she was an Israelite, then she basically had the heart of a Philistine. They were not married, but maybe Samson was courting her for marriage. At any rate, it is possible that he had an unclean relationship with her. Now, it is now the 3rd time that Samson is going to be taken in by his own sensual lusts. And the 3rd strike will be the one where he pays his highest price. Like a child who is told not to touch the stove, Samson will be led by his lusts to his own destruction. He will not escape full payment of this last trial. But before we go on to verse 5, what was Samson doing in a place that is well known for vineyards? He was not supposed to be anywhere around vineyards because of his Nazirite vow. Again, his mother and father, they should have told him. I guess they did. But he's got this hankering for vineyards. He likes grapes. And he goes around there. He's hanging around where he's not supposed to be. Verse 5. And it says here, and the lords of the Philistines, well, they came up to Delilah, and they said to her, entice him, and see wherein his great strength lies, that by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him and afflict him, and we will give you, each one of us, 1,100 pieces of silver. Now, the Philistines realize that they can't kill Samson in hand-to-hand combat. So they decide to go to the source of his strength. We know that the ultimate source of his strength was God. But God decided to associate his strength with his hair. As long as Samson had hair, he had God's presence and he had strength. But when he lost his hair, God's presence and his strength left. Delilah was promised a great amount of money. If each of the 5 main cities of the Philistines, if each one of those cities sent a prince, then she would be getting 5,500 pieces of silver, which was a tremendous amount for a bribe. Back then, you got 5,500 pieces of silver. You didn't need to work probably the rest of your life. Yeah, that was a great amount of money. Again, it says the princes came to her. We don't know how many princes came, but probably one from each of the 5 major cities of the Philistines. She plays the part pretending to love Samson, but all the time she was in love with the money. You know, in Proverbs chapter 2, Solomon is telling of the benefits of heeding wisdom. One benefit is protection from the strange woman. In Proverbs chapter 2 and verse 16, Solomon writes and he says, to deliver you, the wisdom. What does wisdom do? It's to deliver you from the strange woman, even from the stranger, which flatters with her words. You know, not only Samson, but many men today are taken in by the flattering words of a pretty woman. Like Joseph, flee as fast as you can. Don't let Potiphar's wife catch you with her words, because they will. If you stick around and listen to those words from Potiphar's wife, you'll get caught. Yeah, you'll get caught by the words of a strange woman. In Proverbs chapter 2, verses 18 and 19, Solomon writes and he says, for her house inclines to death, and her paths to the dead. None that go unto her return again, neither do they take hold of the paths of life. You know, this is true with Samson. He will be brought to blindness because of her, and he will end his life as a slave. Very few men recover from the snares of a strange woman. The lords of the Philistines, they offer her 1,100 pieces of silver each. We saw this exact same amount in Judges chapter 17 and verse 2. That money, in chapter 17 and verse 2, that money ultimately led to the corruption of the tribe of Dan for hundreds of years. The tribe of Dan never did recover from idolatry that started in Judges chapters 17 and 18. Yep, they never recovered. The tribe of Dan, because of those 1,100 pieces of silver that Micah's mother saved away to make an idol, Dan got tripped up by it. The tribe of Dan got tripped up by it. They worshipped idols until they were taken into captivity by the Assyrians, hundreds of years later. And Samson also, listen, Samson also, he will not recover from the curse of the 1,100 pieces of silver. He's not going to do it. He's not going to recover from the curse of the 1,100 pieces of silver, just like the tribe of Dan never recovered. Now, in verses 6 to 14, I'm not going to read all of these verses of Scripture, but in these verses of Scripture, there is a great warning for every Christian. This is where Delilah entices Samson to give him the information that she's looking for as to where his strength really lies. You know, people sometimes think that they are in control of their lusts and that they will determine how far they will go. All this is to play games with the devil. You think you're in control while all the time you're the one that's being controlled. Samson was his own man. He made his own decisions for his life. He's not even going to let the Nazirite vow keep him from going to a vineyard or spending time with a prostitute. That's how Samson was. I'm my own man. Samson was proud and he was arrogant. He was going to do what he wanted to do, regardless of the Nazirite vow. Samson is a picture of all of us when we refuse to humble ourselves to God and to his truth. And we decide that we are going to take hold of our own lives and do that which is right in our own eyes. Satan's kingdom will tell you that you are strong enough to make your own decisions and that you can handle your temptations. Yet all the while, at the same time, you are being weakened by the enemy. The enemy will whisper in your ear, you're strong enough for this temptation. You're strong enough to handle this, looking at this movie or watching this thing or hearing this. You're strong enough. You're a strong enough Christian. You can take it. Well, all the time, all the while, Satan's kingdom knows you're weak. You're being weakened. You think you're strong. You're not. You're being weakened. Always remember, you are only strong as long as you put yourself in God's hands. Independence from God means ultimate defeat. Satan knows you will fail when you're on your own. Samson was playing games with Delilah, but he didn't know that he was the one being played. Oh yeah. Samson thought he was playing games with Delilah, having fun with her. But all the time, he was the one being played. All right, we're going to continue on in verse 15 next lesson. But until then, walk with the Lord. I know he walks with you.